Part 37. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 362. 361 Advance to Match 2. In the face of this pair of ivory chopsticks, Ecchi took out the top-quality gold shield and broadsword, with the thick broadsword in his hand. It was golden and bright in the sun, and very textured. The audience immediately commented, "It seems that Brother Li has a good chance of winning, and there should be a 70% chance that the top-grade instrument will win against the medium-grade instrument." Listening to the discussion behind, Zhang Weihai and Huang Zixuan were also full of joy, and immediately shouted with Lan Mingming and others, "Brother Li, come on! Brother Li will win." However, Ecchi didn't care, and released the gold shield sword, laughing loudly, "Although Uncle Li sea urchin canine chopsticks are Chinese-style magic instruments, but there are so many spirits attached to the chopsticks, I am afraid that the power is not lower than any top-quality a magic weapon." "Do you know the spirit?" Lilian couldn't help but glance at Ecchi again. "You must know that the sect of the refiner is not easy to help others, so the low-level monks who know this are extremely rare. Li Hizi, who has 8 layers of gas refining, can see at a glance that he is indeed not an ordinary person." While the Jin Dun broadsword and the sea urchin canine chopsticks fought together, the audience was discussing, "Brother, what is the spirit?" Brother, I have little knowledge and I don't know. But brother, I guess, the spirit is to add aura to the magic weapon." As soon as this man who didn't understand pretending to finish speaking, someone immediately refuted, "Do you listen to what Li Wen said by Brother Li? I think that attaching the spirit is to attach the spiritual words that Brother Li said, not the aura. This brother is justified. I don't know where to attach the spirit. After the middle-class magic instrument is attached with the spirit, there will be no less than the power of the top-quality magic instrument. Alas, I will do whatever it takes." Listening to other disciples' discussions, Zhang Weihai was very beautiful. She has begun to accept Li Hizi as his own man. Of course, he hopes that his man is better than others, understands more than others, and becomes the focus of everyone. "Zixuan, why do you say that the sunspots know so much?" "I haven't heard anything about them, I don't know," Zhang Weihai said. "You do know much. He kissed me on your back, and put his hand in my room." A red cloud floated on Huang Zixuan's face, perfunctorily said, "He has been doing outside repairs for a long time, of course. No more than we do." Hearing that Huang Zixuan was out of breath, Zhang Weihai asked, "Xian, are you in conflict with the sunspot? I have seen you alienated recently."
No, alienation is not afraid of you being jealous," Huang Zixuan giggled.
"You want to die?" Zhang Weihai also stretched out his claws. On the stage, Jin Dunkuajian was fighting a pair of sea urchin canine chopsticks. Surprisingly, the confrontation between these two instruments did not make a booming sound like other daisies, but they collided and hit each other very skillfully. In the sky, the golden shield broadsword is located in the center, but 2 fine chopsticks are deftly located on the outside. The white jade-like sea urchin fang-toothed chopsticks are now like 2 spirit snakes, constantly launching attacks. Each time, you can use the most powerful chopstick, the spike hit the weakest hilt and body of the broadsword. Don't look at the pair of chopstick-like instruments that seem to have little lethality and weak attack power, but Ecchi has already felt it. This sea urchin canine chopsticks has the effect of biting. It seems that this is a special property of the canine fangs of the sea urchin, with the effect of a suitable spirit array method. Ecchi felt that every time the slender chopstick tip hit the broadsword, it was like being bitten by a large mosquito. Taking a hard breath, of course, it was spiritual power, not blood. The spiritual power of the broadsword is sucked, and the operator needs to constantly replenish the spiritual power. If the battle continues like this, the drag is also dragged to death, and no more spiritual power can be consumed. Uncle Li's magical instrument really is feminine. Ecchi smiled slightly, utterly damaging. Lilian was not angry. Haha laughed, do nt be depressed. It takes skill to manipulate my pair of sea urchin canine chopsticks. Most people can't control it. Do you think I'm so easy to avoid your sword attack? Do you hit the weak part smoothly? How to do it? Be flexible. Be flexible and diverse. Lilian laughed, and the sea urchin canine chopsticks poked once more on the handle of the broadsword. Yekong didn't answer, and his hands were fast binding. To say that Yekong is not inferior to anyone when it comes to the manipulation of the weapon, he wanted to practice outside the southern city for 3 months with a small sword weapon. When it comes to these, we must think of Huang Quan's ancestors. If it were not Huang Quan's ancestors with sarcasm and scolding, Yekong's proficiency in manipulating instruments would definitely not be like now. Ah, it's interesting seeing that Jin Dunjian became flexible in the air. Lilian also became interested. While speeding up the speed of his method, he said, I can't believe you are a master of the magic weapon. Actually the magical tools, in the hands of different people, will emit different powers. This depends not only on the level of cultivation, the strength of the consciousness, but the speed of manipulation and technique are very important. A large golden light and 2 slender white lights in the sky. The battlefield is more fierce. The golden light is like a golden python, swinging back and forth, mainly for defense, but it takes the initiative to attack without losing the opportunity. Twice. The 2 slender white lights were more flexible because of their small size. They suddenly attacked the wide blade back of the sword, and quickly moved around the back of the sword to attack the hilt. However, under the control of Yekong, the gold sword was leak-proof. The white light of the 2 little snakes couldn't find any more. This is not only a competition of instruments, but also the change of the methods of both sides, and the change of methods. We must know that this method of change may be because the change is too rapid, causing spiritual backlash. Few ordinary monks dare to come forward. If one method is not finished, the next method is performed. There are more and more audiences on stage, and everyone is eager to watch this high-level technique competition. At this time, watching the collision of the heavenly implements, that is the layman, and now we should pay attention to the transformation of the hands, finger methods, and techniques of both sides. Even Cao Muking, who was a referee on the side, was very surprised. She could not have imagined that the 8-layer black scourge of refining gas had reached such a superb state of fire. Ordinary monks, when they reach the 4th level of gas refining, they will begin to practice expulsion and prepare to use magic instruments. But few people practice hard exorcism specifically. After all, monks are mainly cultivation. As for the enhancement and skill of exorcism, slowly polish it in future battles. Your technique is faster than mine. Although you are just the same instrument, your instrument is obviously too large, and it is obviously more disadvantageous than dexterity. This can also prevent the needle from being inserted into the water and splashing. It is indeed powerful. Lilian couldn't help but praise. Yekong still didn't talk about it, he just controlled the golden shield broadsword with his heart, but when the golden shield broadsword swayed and dodged, it was obviously short-lived. This lag was short, and Lilian immediately saw the opportunity. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 363. 3 or 2 advance to 3rd. Although you are faster than me, you are still a monk during the refining period. After using your spiritual power too much, you can't keep up. Lilian laughed. Although he was talking, he didn't stop in his hands, and immediately manipulated a nearby sea urchin canine chopsticks and stabbed at the wide ridge of the Jin Dun broadsword. Your spiritual power is already empty. If you some more sword power, you will not be able to support it. Lilian said that he was steadfast and even mobilized another sea urchin canine chopsticks to launch an attack from behind, forming a 2-sided pinch trend. Facing a pair of smart but fierce pair of sea urchin canine chopsticks, the golden shield sword was dying and struggling, but some were overwhelmed, avoiding the front and the back. But finally, the golden shield sword is still slower and slower to respond. Nai Li, you are still glorious in this defeat, Lilian sighed, and he was not polite in his hands. He immediately controlled the two sea urchin canine chopsticks and launched a pinch in order to absorb the other's spiritual power in one fell swoop. Zhang Wei looked at it with enthusiasm. If Ye Kong failed, he would not be able to enter the battlefield, and it would be even more difficult to build the foundation. Unconsciously, she grasped Huang Zixuan's hands, and the palms of both girls were a little sweaty. Well, still defeated, there was a frustrated sigh behind the disciple behind him. Zhang Wei was so annoyed that he suddenly thought that Brother Hezi had told her before that he should be completely and unconditionally trusted. You're defeated. Brother Hezi will never be defeated, Zhang Wei almost roared out of his mouth. But the disciple was about to refute a sentence, but he didn't say anything. His eyes looked like ghosts, and his face was full of incredible expression. Zhang Wei hurriedly turned around. Ping pong, a crisp and pleasant sound vibrated the audience. I do not know when the golden shield and broadsword in the sky spins up like a windmill. The remnant of the rapidly rotating golden shield and broadsword in the eyes of people forms a golden circle, shining with gold, and blowing wind. Lilian originally thought that Ye Kong had lost his spiritual power, so he was assured of a bold attack. However, he did not expect that the magpie was so full of spiritual power that it was spinning like a tutor. One did not notice and let the sharp blade of the shield sword be chopped in the center of a sea urchin canine chopsticks. If it wasn't for Lilian's quick hands, the other would be chopped by the rapidly rotating gold sword. After a crisp sound, one of the white lights turned into two white lights and fell on the ground in the middle of the ring. Cao Mu was stupid, and the audience was stupid. They didn't expect that a black man would win. It was too unexpected. Lilian was also stupid. He looked at himself as a baby sea urchin canine chopsticks. One of them was split into two, and his heart was unruly. The victorious Ye was also stupid. He didn't expect that the chopsticks were so fragile. Then Uncle Li is not bad. How can he cut his instrument into two pieces at once? The two girls shouted first, and after a while of depression, they were naturally responsible for the cheerleaders. Spots and sunspots will win, spots and sunspots will kill two swords. Someone on the stage fainted. What kind of words are they? They are not rhyme, and they are not afraid of jokes. Uncle Li, I'm really sorry, my disciples didn't expect it. Ye Kong quickly hurried back Jin Dunkuajian. Although Lilian was distressed, he was embarrassed to say something in front of everyone, and took back the broken sea urchin canine chopsticks and said, anyway, the fault of my sea urchin canine chopsticks is that they are too slender and fragile. No wonder you are in this matter. I did not expect that your practice of refining the 8 layers of gas is far superior to me. Lilian couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. Ye Kong laughed. Uncle Li must be lamented. In fact, Uncle Li's technique is amazing and he can change the tactics quickly. Li only saw it in his life. Unfortunately, Uncle Li said too much, although he seemed to be a teacher. Uncle's calmness and inevitability will inevitably lead to inattention. It is impossible to make mistakes and tricks, but it can affect the judge's judgment. Just like I just pretended to be spiritually weak, I deliberately sold vulnerabilities, and it should be possible to use the master's repair. I can tell. Ye Kong's words not only gave Lilian advice, but also gave him a step down. But who knew that Lilian nodded and thought for a while, then he said, Li Hezi, you are a very good opponent. You can understand a lot of things when you play against you. Lilian's words immediately caused a ridicule and applause in the audience. Your uncle was too shameful. Your instruments were split in half by the junior. You still have to fight face to face? You are too shameless. Cao Muking shouted immediately, prohibit the noise, or drive you all out. The rules stipulate that one of the 3 parties loses the range of the ring, and arrives in time. One of them is defeated. Lilian has the right to fight again, he has not yet lose. Yekong is desperate to die, his ancestors were stubborn and forgotten again, good people can't do it. I kindly remind you, but you have to call me, oh, it's really depressed. Lilian was also embarrassed. When he saw Yekong's face was not good, he said, sister and nephew, it's the uncle who wants revenge or resentment. It really has war on you. If you do anti-fight today, I'm afraid this is a thing in my heart. Pimple. The cultivator is the most stress-free in his heart. If there is something in his heart, practice will encounter a bottleneck. Lilian said so, and Yekong only smiled generously. Then Li gave his life to the gentleman. Okay, Lilian responded aloud, and patted the storage bag again and again, this time flying out a big slap in the palm of his hand. When Yekong saw it, he was prepared for it. Generally speaking, Ding as a magic weapon is very powerful, and many of them are large-scale attacking weapons. Before that, he had seen the power of the elixir mountain. If it were not for the ancient water and fire gourd, he would not be able to cope with it. Who knew that Lilian even took out another ancient tripod, waited for Yekong to look at the rank of this tripod, and suddenly took a breath. Necromancer, the audience at the stage all widened their eyes, and no one expected to see Necromancer. The best craftsmanship is very rare, and the required materials are extremely rare, and even if you are all super-class treasures, no master craftsman dare to guarantee that you can craft the best craftsmanship, in their words, refining need for magic weapon. This name is called by Ding. It was given to me by a friend when I was sitting. This is a superb metal weapon, which contains 800 swords, but it's Li's repair. Can only release half of them. The introduction of Lilian surprised the disciples. Oh my God! There are 800 flying swords, even if there are half of them, there are 400 flying swords. They are all one flying sword. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 364. 363 Promotions. Uncle Li, please. Yekong didn't say much, holding a gold shield and broadsword, a tactic. The broad blade was immediately divided into countless mahjong blocks, and then quickly combined, and finally issued a nice. On one side was golden light, and a small shield with a wide upper and a lower tip was held in his hand. Your little shield can't be defended. Lilian's hands and tricks in a hand, by Ding immediately became the size of a water tank, and then banged on the ground in front of Lilian. It was amazing to see the momentum of the thing of. Uncle Li, please feel free. Yekong faintly waved the small golden shield in his hand. Then let you see 200 mouths first, Lilian said, and he fought with his hands and twitched his lips and teeth, and sang, "Get up." Immediately, I saw the golden sorrow rising from Ding's mouth, and in the air mass that could not see the inside, one after another the golden flying swords burst out of the air, straight into the clouds, with great momentum, and only 200 flying swords came out. It took a while. It's okay. That day, Howling Wind Wolf King released less blades than his flying sword, and the sunspots passed safely, Zhang Wei said to Huang Zixuan softly. In fact, Yekong also had the same idea. If he can grasp the rhythm of this flying sword, he can easily avoid it. But when the first round of flying swords passed, Yekong discovered that it was not the same thing at all. If the wind blade fails to hit the person, it will disappear, and this flying sword will not, it turns again. In conjunction with Lilian's ingenious technique, each Fijian seems to be an independent life, with different angles, directions, and attitudes. It is completely impossible to find the law and rhythm. Damn, I knew I had just split your pair of sea urchin canine chopsticks into two. Yahalo thought to himself. Nai Li, let's use any other powerful weapon. I will give you 100 more mouthfuls of pressure, Li Li said over there, pointing to Bai Jianding again. Ye Kong was about to vomit blood, and he couldn't wait to take out Jing Guanjiao and split this abominable broken tripod into two. However, Ye Kong will not do it again. Lilian's 8 achievements were sent by Cao Guang's old husband to test himself. Ye Kong believes that Cao Guang's old man must hide and peek now. If you take out the golden light, it will be exposed and you might as well give in. Cao Guang and her lover Lu Qianqian really stared at this platform. Qianqian, do you think Li Hiza will be desperate this time? Cao Guang laughed. Lu Qianqian shook her head and said, he's not stupid. What magic weapon or dragon does he really release? Can he stay here? But his arrogant temperament made him never give up, Cao Guang said again. Lu Qianqian still shook her head. If Li Hiza is really a madman, he would not do stupid things. I studied his series of behaviors and found that this man is actually very savvy. Although he is arrogant and desperate, he knows the changes. I have never done anything unsure, and even rushed to the gate of Qingming to provoke Shi Dingfeng, and I prepared a lot beforehand. Cao Guang could not help laughing. This boy is really arrogant, I dare not challenge Shi Dingfeng. Lu Qianqian chuckled, Shi Dingfeng doesn't dare to challenge you, you are the ancestors of Kangnan school. Cao Guangzia was far worse than Shi Ding, and Lu Qianqian was comforting him. Then Lu Qianqian changed the topic and said, Fu Jun, do you think Li Hiza can still win? Cao Guang looked at Li Hiza, who was already in danger, and shook his head. I don't see any hope for him to win, but it is strange that I have a subconscious that he will win. That's why you are too optimistic about him. Lilian's 100 sword tripods, at the beginning, the monks who built Zuji can't help it. While they were talking, great changes took place on the ring. I saw Li Hiza, who was hiding in Tibet with a small golden shield, suddenly slammed the storage bag, and a dark thing flew out. Under Li Hiza's simple method, I saw that the dark things quickly became large, and after a while, they grew to a height of one person. Then everyone saw it clearly. This turned out to be a complete turtle shell. When everyone waited to see the grade of this turtle shell, some people in the crowd exclaimed, wow! It's another superb weapon, or a defensive superb weapon. Oh my god! So much, I saw 2 things today. Indeed, the best weapon is very rare, and the defensive weapon is slightly better than the attack weapon, so the defensive weapon is even more scarce. In terms of value, this turtle shell is higher than that of the sword. How many? The best artifacts are too rare, and those monks who possess artifacts will not easily take them out. Even if they know and make friends, they will not let the other party know to prevent others from killing them. Therefore, even Cao Muking's ancestors have never seen the best quality instruments several times. Most of the disciples who have watched the war have never seen the best quality instruments in their lives. If I saw 2 today, how can I not? Excited. Even more excited are Zhang Huiyi and Huang Zixuan, 2 girls. They are arguably the most nervous people. These sighs of relief when they saw Ye Kong take out the best defense tools. At this moment Huang Zixuan finally understood, and Brother Hiza said that he would go to the craftsman's custom-made instrument, which seems to be the big turtle shell. Uncle Li, play slowly, and your disciples will go to sleep. A black man grinned as white as snow's teeth, and then compared the 2 girls with a V-shaped victory gesture. Penetrated into the turtle's shell. Earlier Ye Kongbai let the 2 girls learn, and later told them what they meant. A symbolizes an object of a man. Today, when I saw him compare 2 fingers, the 2 girls were confused. Huang Zixuan thought. Could the be pointed at something on the woman? Does Brother Hazy still remember to touch himself? Hey, I'm so ashamed, Brother Hazy is so good, and I'm not afraid that Sister Wu Yi will know. Zhang Huiyi had other ideas. Then mean he has 2 men's things? No, I've seen it myself, he only has 1. Well, I know what it means. It seems that he is saying that he is very man, just as strong as having 2xxs. If Yekong knew that Zhang Weihai had already imagined him as a double-gun man, he would surely fall to the ground and spit in foam. Yekong entered the shell of the tortoise and looked around. It was found that the area inside was not small and the space was quite large. If you really wanted to install people, it would not be a problem to install 3 or 50. There are several reasons why this magical instrument is a superb magical instrument. Firstly, it has a strong defense force. Secondly, there is an independent space inside. Finally, if it is made into a superior magical instrument, it can only protect Yekong. Becoming a superb weapon can protect dozens of people. It would be cool if people could walk around and they could build houses and farm in the space inside. Yemo began to want to get into trouble again. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 365. 364 Promotion to 5. Lilian, who was on the opposite side, was very surprised to see that the other side came up with a superb defense weapon. Originally, he thought that this boy would have no choice but to surrender, but who knew he had come up with the best defense weapon. Lilian had never seen a need for a defense weapon before. Upon seeing it today, the challenge in his heart rose, and he immediately urged 400 flying swords and launched an onslaught against the large turtle shell. Well, the best defense weapon is awesome. It feels like a spaceship. Ye was lying on the side of the turtle's shell at the moment, looking out of the porthole. In fact, this is not a porthole or even a hollow, but a perspective array method is arranged at this position during refining. In several angles beside this formation, the refiner Yu-Hao also added several other formations very humanely. For example, the matrix method that can shoot out the magic instrument, and the matrix method that can let people drill out in one direction, are very much used in short. Although this is only a defense weapon, it can be used with other attack weapons, reminiscent of a steel fortress, a super tank. Of course, the only bad thing is that it is ugly, and it is likely to be scolded into a turtle shell. However, yet a rogue doesn't matter, just scold it, as long as it is practical. I thought I had mocked that Xianxia was a green turtle. Lilian attacked for a while, and 400 Fijian returned without success. This defensive weapon is very powerful. No matter from which angle you attack, there is no weak spot. Fijian hits it, just like itching, and you can't even leave a mark on it. Even so, Lilian was not discouraged, and changed several types of magical instruments and spells to attack. In the end, he only said to referee Cao Mooking, "Uncle, this defensive weapon is really powerful. It can't be broken in the next place. I concede." Lile could not help but give up. According to the rules of the game, the disciples during the gas refining period against the students in the base period, adhere to the 2-column incense time. The disciple during the gas refining period is the winner. The two have been fighting for more than one incense stick. Even if they stick to the 2-pillar incense, Lilian believes that he can't break this abominable turtle shell weapon. Although Cao Mooking was annoyed, there was no way but to honestly announce, Lindsay in the 4th qualifying match, win. As Cao Mooking reluctantly announced the results, many disciples in the audience fell into a state of insanity. Although Lihiza was a bit invincible, it was indeed a victory. This opened the way for the gas refining period to defeat the monks in the middle of the construction period. Not to mention, today they also saw 2 superb magic instruments, and their eyes were full of joy. When Yekong stepped down, he was surrounded by everyone. Later, Zhang Weihai and Huang Zixuan were both obsessed with digging into the shell of the tortoise, and the big hooligan only returned to the small medicine garden to release the tortoise shell to satisfy their desire for understanding. Of course, Yekong didn't forget to make a bet with Huang Zixuan, and while Zhang Weihai advanced the turtle shell, a hooligan laughed, "You said that if I took out the craftsman made by the craftsman, let me fart." Huang Zixuan mercilessly rewarded him with 1 eye and 1 foot, and then drilled into the turtle shell. This girl has let you touch it all over the body, and still remembers to fart, it really has to be an inch. The most depressing person is Cao Guang. He had expected to drive the boy out of his original shape, but he didn't expect this guy to have such a magical thing in the end. What's even more depressing for Cao Guang is that he has already guessed the scene of a few games behind a blackbird. Now that he has revealed that he possesses the best defense weapon, Yekong will no longer hide himself. Cao Guang's ancestors guessed right. In the next game, Ye went into the turtle shell very hooliganly, leaving people nowhere to talk. In the end, the other side only gave a bitter smile and gave in. Even in a certain field, as soon as Ye Da's hooligan released the turtle shell, the monk Zuji waved his hand. "Nai, don't let your turtle shell go, uncle, can I admit defeat?" Say, when Yekong defeated Lilian, he had already advanced to the top 50 and entered the finals. The next few games were all finals, so he effortlessly entered the top 10. Strong, also achieved the intended purpose. Zhang Weii also entered the finals. After entering the finals, she and several other practitioners who entered the finals during the gas refinement period all lost. The strength of the students in the foundation period really cannot be underestimated. The disciple is Ye. Although Zhang Weii lost, it doesn't matter. She doesn't want anything else, as long as she gets Zujiden. According to her current record, let alone the top 20 of the gas refining period, the top 5 of the gas refining period are also stable. In this comparison, Yekong and his friends can all say that they have achieved their stated goals, but Ye Dagong has a new pursuit. Since victory is so easy, why not make a top 3 play? And even if Ye wants to lose, he can't lose it. When the turtle shell is released, the world is invincible. Do you deliberately fail and not be scolded? In fact, neither the fairy bird nor the top grade instrument Ki Union is Yekong's purpose. He has a big jade. What other fairy birds are needed? Moreover, when Cai Yunyi looked at it, it was something that a woman used. After getting it, I do not know if it would be better for Zhang Weii or Huang Zixuan. What Yekong is most looking forward to is to win the first prize in Dongfu. If you have Dongfu, it will be much more comfortable. Now that you have a home, you will do something yourself in the future, and you should not watch Cao mooking at all. Also called smooth, Yekong successfully stood on the ring in the finals after 2 games. On the 15th day of Nuobuot, the square in Neotian church was crowded, and disciples gathered inside and outside. Everyone wanted to see if the first person in the outer court could win the first place in Nuobuot. Hunting in the wind, Yekong was standing on the only platform in front of Wei Daotang with his opponent in his hands. Oppositely, his last opponent stood there. It was a coincidence that the old white-bearded man who stood opposite was in conflict with him before. Lin Tianwu, the old man who built the 9-story building base. Li Hizi, let's meet again. Lin Tianwu wore a grey goatee, with a disdainful smile on his face, and looked like he was steadfast. Uncle Lin, I have to tell you, in fact, you look like this, really embarrassing, Yekong said lazily. The old man Lin was annoyed, but he was also a person who had lived for nearly 200 years, and immediately understood that the boy intentionally angered himself. Lin Tianwu's face changed, and he quickly replied, Li Hizi, it's a coincidence. I can't get used to you, and God will arrange for you to be delivered to my door for me to spit. A man can't read young people, then I can only tell him that you are old. Although I will grow old, I will not be used to others, but at least I am young now, and you are old now. It will never be young again. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 366. 365 Advance to 6. Lin Tianwu laughed. Yes, I'm not only old, but I'm dying, but what about this? As long as I break through and succeed in Dan, I will add another 200 years. Yekong sighed and said, then you should prepare for Dan, not blend here. Lin Tianwu smiled awkwardly again. I will always have a trance in my heart without teaching you this arrogant and shameless guy. Oh, Ye Kong also laughed. So Uncle Lin, I'm sorry for you, because you will never be able to untie this puppet. Lin Tianwu sneered, is it just your turtle shell? Yes, let alone, a turtle shell eats your old man dead. You do fierce. The anger in Lin Tianwu's heart finally ignited. He raised his hand and wiped it from the storage bag, and then opened his hand again. A turquoise, flat, square-shaped object appeared. Stone amulet, lower grade charm, and a crystal of earth sealed in the charm. After use, it can summon earth giants. The power is powerful. Even Monk Jadan must deal with it carefully. Lin Tianwu proudly introduced this mantra that he was proud of. All the disciples who watched the battle opened their mouths, and even Ye Kong stared at the blue-gray square and square-flat mantra with a gaze. You know, the lower order and lower order spells are generally available in the outside market, and even the lower order and higher order spells are rare, not to mention the middle class charms. Although it is only the lowest grade in the middle grade charm, it is already a grade higher than the lower grade charm. Don't say those disciples, you haven't even heard of it. For Ye Kong, the charm is even more interesting to him. He already knew that the lower, upper, middle, and lower ranks of Xiaopin charm were mainly distinguished by their power. For example, the lower-ranking Fireball curse can only put a fireball to attack the enemy. The lower-ranking Firebird curse is actually an upgraded version of the Fireball curse. At the lower-ranking High Order, although Ye Kong has not yet opened, I also guessed that it must be an upgraded version of the Firebird curse, which is nothing more than a larger number, greater power, and a wider range of attacks. For another example, the Ice Bomb curse, Ice Needle curse, Thunder Fire curse, 5 Thunder curse, and so on. But what exactly is the difference between the middle grade charm and the lower grade charm? Ye Kong doesn't know, so he is very curious about the Stone Sting charm in the hands of Lin Tianwu. Lin Tianwu enjoyed the envy and curiosity delivered by everyone. The old man wiped his pale goatee and introduced him proudly. Actually, the most important function of a Chinese spell is a seal. Seal magic, seal spirit beast, seal ghost, including seal magic weapon. I think many of you have heard of Fu Bao. In fact, it is also a Chinese spell that is, by some means, the magic weapon's functions and power are sealed into a special rune paper. Oh. That's it. Although Ye Kong had a lot of opinions about the old man, and didn't care if the old man said that he really wanted to show off, he still arched a hand and thanked him. Uncle Lin, Kuriko has been taught. Lin Tianwu didn't expect that this boy should be so easy to hold down and let go, and he felt with emotion that this boy would be a personal talent in the future, but it was too much Meng Lang. At this moment, when I heard the audience, many disciples asked loudly again, Uncle Lin, what about the top grade charm? Lin Tianwu shook his head and said, no one knows exactly how the top quality charm is made, and how powerful it is. No one in this world knows it. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the devil in this field was killed and injured more than half. Kang Bei's place hastily fled and all the relevant classics were lost. Everyone sighed with a sigh of tears after hearing it. No one in this world would make the charm of sorry. It is a pity that no one will ever know how powerful the charm of sorry is. But Ye Kong heard it in his heart, others wouldn't, but he could. He had a complete collection of spells brought from the earth, and he believed that sooner or later he would have the opportunity to see the mysterious top-quality charms. Lin Tianwu spoke loudly. Cao Muking was worried about delaying the game, and finally urged, Lin, the test can start. Respecting the uncle's decree, after Lin Tianwu finished speaking, he struck himself with a golden light amulet and defended it. Then he sat down cross-legged and placed Shi Yunfu in front of him, saying something in his mouth and started to urge Shi Yunfu. Many disciples saw that with the urging of Lin Tianwu, the blue-gray spell suddenly flashed, and a little ochre-colored light suddenly lit up. Even during the day, the light was very bright, like the corners of a night sky. Celebrity. Then, I saw that the yellow starlight of the earth is getting brighter and brighter. At the same time, the large ground in front of Lin Tianwu began to gather yellow and grey mist like dust. All monks felt the confluence of spirits, and monks with earth spirit roots felt. It was a strong aura of earth properties. All the monks' eyes originally focused on Lin Tianwu. After all, yet every time he threw a turtle shell to avoid fighting, which made people look too tedious. However, suddenly someone in the crowd exclaimed Fu Bao. The disciples quickly turned around. They were surprised to find that a blackbird did not take the turtle shell this time, but took out a clean white as jade's charm was placed in front of her, and she sat down with her legs crossed, her lips turned, and she missed something. Fu Bao is also a rare and good thing. After Lin Tianwu said just now, everyone knows that the Shijifu and Fu Bao belong to the middle class charm, so everyone has an idea in their hearts, that is, Shi Fufu and Fu Bao. Which one is great? Obviously, Fu Bao's urging was much faster than that of Shi Yanfu. Lin Tianwu's starlight only started to stabilize. There was a bright round mirror magic weapon in Fu Bao. This mixed element mirror has a quarter of the power of the original magic weapon, and its power is much greater than the magic weapon. Although it is not big, it spins on top of Li He's head, but the audience can still feel the power of the period. He's a... Hurry! Hit him, Huang Zixuan shouted first. Get started first. It's the same truth in all the worlds. While the old man Lin Lin's tactics haven't finished, hit him by surprise. It's best to let the old guy have a spiritual backlash, and he will be seriously injured if he doesn't die. Yeah, hit him. His golden light amulet can't stand Fu Bao at all, shouted Cao Junfan, who couldn't help it. The other disciples shouted even more, Brother Li. Hit him a bitch. The beating of his mother's chicken, beating him half-length. Beating his mouth frothed. He was frightened, mentally BT, and stopped seeing round things. Lin Tianwu listened fiercely. What kind of word is this disciple where her mother came from? However, he also regretted it. He should have released another defensive weapon just now. Still look down on this boy, who knows that this boy did not drill the turtle shell this time, but also took out Fu Bao. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 367. 6 Promotion. Lin Tianwu hurriedly chanted, for fear of a black attack. But to everyone's surprise, a black man was still sitting, and then shot another storage bag. Then there was a jade charm that was as white as jade and was placed in front of him. Oh my god! Another Fu Bao, almost all the audience shouted. The poor little monks can't wait to rush to pump someone's black face. Damn, Lao Tzu doesn't even have Fu Bao's hair, but you put one on the left and the other on the right. Are you still human? Do you know how jealous I am? Even Huang Zixuan was very surprised. The blackbird, hidden so well, was so close to him, but did not disclose a little bit of wind. And Zhang Wei even gritted his teeth, and a stingy ghost, at first he only had to borrow Fu Bao to use Qianguang. Why is it mysterious? I don't know what to put on it. I heard that Qiu Qianguang's man's things were bitten, so that now all the male disciples saw that they were going to show off a mountain, and they covered their crotch. In fact, Zhang Wei didn't know that when she was better than that, someone Fu Bao hadn't got it yet. While the disciples were amazed at Brother Fu Fu a lot, suddenly they heard Lin Tianwu's loud noise. Quickly turned to look, I saw that the earthy yellow starlight on that stone rune had been fully urged, floating in front of Lin Tianwu, bright and bright, so that every wrinkle on the old man's face was so clear. The roar of the roar continued. The sound came from a large open space in front of Lin Tianwu. The earth's nature and fog on the open space blocked the sight, but after every sound, everyone felt it tremble at their feet. Very rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The scene was a bit weird, and all disciples felt a fear from the unknown, as if there were any dangerous things being bred in the mist, ready to break through at any time. Time is at this moment. Lin Tianwu's spell was finally finished, and then his hands waved outward at the same time. The bright earth-colored star burst into the center of the mist and disappeared into the sight of the person. Wake up! Das Han's soul, the crystallization of Earth's attributes, appear, Xian. In Lin Tianwu's scream, the mist-covered ground turned violently, and people were shocked. Boom, was another shocking bang. I saw a huge stone arm smashing into the mist. The stone arm was very huge. If it is the thin waist of a normal slender woman, I am afraid that the arm is not as thick. The palm of the stone above the arm is also very huge. The 5 fingers are upright like small stone pillars. Then the 5 stone fingers are moved one by one, and they look very flexible. When this arm got out of the ground, the white marble floor on the ground was also damaged, and there was a huge white marble jade stone just on the palm of the giant hand. Just look at the giant stone, the fingers snapped together, and then hard, the white jade stone immediately turned into powder. So powerful the disciples watching the war took a subconscious step back. This stone arm is too strong and powerful. If a punch comes, I am afraid that it is brother Qiu Qiangguang's Jing Guangju. This arm was not the whole of Xian, and then there was a loud noise, and another arm was stretched out, and then, 2 huge palms grabbed the ground, one hard, A huge figure emerged from the ground. When this huge figure stepped on the ground with both feet at the same time, the entire inner blade hall was vibrating, no less than an earthquake of magnitude 8. Silk, all the disciples couldn't help but take a breath. I saw in front of them a stone giant standing up to 3 or 4 floors. The giant had hands and feet, eyes and nose, and looked very powerful and fierce. The huge earthquake that jumped out of Xian, the layer of mist has been completely dispersed, exposing a shocking large black hole in the middle of the white marble floor. Fast, fast, back away! Xian was too huge, afraid that he would fight against seedlings and innocent people immediately. At the request of law enforcement disciples, everyone stepped back hundreds of meters. As soon as Xian came out, he suddenly roared, and the sound of the sky shook. Then he clenched his fists in both hands and looked annoyingly at Yekong, but without the command of his master, he did not launch an attack. Lin Tianwu looked at the 2 mixed element mirrors hovering above a black man's head, and looked at his own stone pimple. Ha laughed, although you use 2 runes, you can still win against me like this. No, otherwise, you confess your defeat and apologize for your rudeness to me a few days ago. How about we stop there? Yekong smiled faintly. The reason why he did not sneak attack on Lin Tianwu was to see the power of Zongpan charm. Now Xian has come out, don't try how powerful it is, not yes work. Uncle Lin, although your stone goblet is huge and looks bluffing, who knows if it is a silver spear? Yekong laughed lazily. Ignorant is fearless, Lin Tianwu said with a cold hum. Nai Li, let me remind you again. The key to the production of this stone rune is the crystal of the earth. Just now, maybe you don't know what the crystal of earth is. It was a mountain that started cultivation under the coincidence of chance. After millions of years, it opened up the spirit of wisdom and cultivated the essence, and the crystal of this earth is its essence. Can Das Han also practice? Even Lu Xianxian, who was watching the game, couldn't help wondering. Of course, you can cultivate mountains, trees, flowers, birds, fish, and insects. As long as you have organic fate, you can cultivate savvy and even shape human. Cao Guang said lightly. Lu Qianqian smiled. I know everything else, it's the demon repair. I've killed a lot, but Das Han can rarely become a demon repair. Cao Guang laughed. I haven't seen it. I didn't expect that Lin Tianwu hasn't closed her retreat in the past 10 years. He actually made such a thing, but I don't know where the crystal of that land came from. Nai Li, I tell you all this, not to show off anything. Lin Tianwu held his hands up and raised his head. But you need to know that the crystals of this earth are also wise. Let me build the 9-layer foundation. Because, I can't completely control it at all, so if there is any difference between them, I have to say that Lin Tianwu didn't tell you. Huh, you can't control it and let it go? Do you want to destroy Yun Fuzong's inner hall and let the major Kangnan schools repair? Joke, Ye Kongleng hummed. Lin Tianwu blushed and said, the monk Yuanmen will deal with it at that time. You don't need to worry about it, now what you have to decide is, can you fight? Since Lin Tianwu said this, it means that Cao Guang and others are watching, there is nothing terrible. I believe that if it is really dangerous, Cao will definitely take the shot. Ye Kong made up his mind and laughed, Uncle Lin, Li has never been afraid of words in your dictionary. Do you say so much, is it because you have a guilty conscience? If it hadn't been for the fact that you didn't attack me just now, I'll tell you this. Now it seems that you are too numb. If you find yourself dying, don't blame me. Lin Tianwu's eyes flashed with brilliance, and he immediately struck a tactic, uttering deep and obscure words in his mouth. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 368. 367 Advance to 8. Shi Yun set off and rushed towards Ye Kong in front of him. He waved a big fist bigger than the human head. It shook the earthquake every step of the way, making people frightened. His big fist was fierce, waving the ground, to smash the little human in the opposite direction. Ye Kong wasn't idle, he waved his left and right hands at the same time, and screamed, go! Fu Bao's power is good, but in the face of such a hard and powerful stone giant, but a bit powerless. Boom! For a moment, two pieces of mixed element mirrors banged on the shoulders of both sides of Shi Yan, and immediately smashed a large pit. If it was a human, being smashed by these two would have been seriously injured. But the opponent is Shi Yan, this is a guy who has no feelings and doesn't know the pain. It didn't even pause, so he came to Ye Kong's face and struck down his big fist. Boom! The white stone of Hanbaiu was torn apart and smashed into the sky. Cao Guang, who was sitting in the inner blade hall, was distressed for a while. Ye Kong, who was leaping in the shadow Wu posture, turned around and landed on the ground in the distance, watching the big pit on the ground secretly startled. This stone maggot really has amazing power. Even if you are strong, you are just a stone. Ye Kong was also blasted out of flames and sacrificed a golden shield and broadsword. The body revolved like a gyro, with the shield sword in front and the body behind. The entire body formed a rotating body. Cone, I stab. Boom! Ye Kong's shield sword arrived fiercely on Shi Yan's thick chest, and the power of spinning and puncturing pierced into the depth of Shi Yan's body. But the body of the stone maggot was indeed too thick, and Jin Dun's broadsword exhausted, and he was trapped in the crack of the stone. Flash, Ye Kong was as light as a swallow, and retreated without success. The toes were slightly on the belly of Shi Yan, and the body flew out like a white light cloud. Boom! With a deafening noise, Shi Yan's two fists smashed into each other and almost hit Ye Kong, which flew out. When Ye Kong looked back, he smiled. This stupid stone man was too hard, and under the bombardment, he broke his two fists. Isn't this stone maggot as strong as you say? Ye Kong jumped away, two mixed element mirrors spinning over his head, and a golden bright flying sword also returned. That's because you haven't seen its real strength, Lin Tianwu snorted coldly, his eyes drooped, his tongue turned, and he was meditating again. Depressed footage appeared for everyone. With Lin Tianwu's chanting spell on the opposite side, and numerous auras of earth attributes gathered, he soon repaired the large pit with broken shoulders and broken chest, and two big fists. It grew quickly. It will be repaired automatically. How can this battle be fought? In the distance, Watching Zhang Wei and others couldn't help focusing. Cao Junfan also sighed weakly. The odds of victory are not only powerful, but this stone urn is not only powerful but also repaired after being injured. It is hard to fight, but it is not good to be clever. How can this be good? However, Ye Kong, who was on the field, noticed the flaws in Shiji, and sneered, "Uncle Lin, just now you urged Shijifu to use a lot of spiritual power? Now you call a lot of spiritual power to repair Shiji. I see your spiritual power can be repaired several times." Ye Kong talked about the key points, but Lin Tianwu looked like but was not worried at all. Haha smiled and took out a medium quality spirit stone, supplementing the spiritual power, and said, "The nephew doesn't hide from you that the old spiritual power is now complete. It's empty, but do you think you have a chance to break through my stone pimple so easily?" After Lin Tianwu said, a piece of Chinese spirit stone had been sucked into a grey stone. Then he patted the storage bag again. This time he took out a large number of golden charms. Golden amulet, defensive spell, low grade, very cheap, sell 10 spirit stones outside. The old man made it. It only costs 1 spirit stone, haha, you can consume it with it. Lin Tianwu laughed and typed a golden rune. The white charm hit the body of Xian, and immediately turned into a ball of golden light, wrapping up the whole body of Xian. The tall and mighty Xian was even more powerful under the cover of Jingguang. Ye Kong once again released the hybrid element mirror, but under the defense of Jingguangfu, the hybrid element mirror caused much less damage to Xian. "Haha, Li Shi's nephew, I don't think you'll have to work hard, just give up." Lin Tianwu added Shijin a golden light rune, and then said with confidence. Ye Kong smiled coldly, his body turned over, avoiding Xian's big fists, and his feet were firmly on the ground. Then he saw the white cardigan shake down, and the action was like wind and clouds, all in one go. "Why admit defeat?" Ye Kong asked back, "Do you think this big man can hit me? If I blindly dodged and dragged on 2 pillars, would you still win?" Since Lin Tianwu uses shameless tactics, Ye Kong has no scruples. But Lin Tianwu smiled again and made a gesture to Xian. "Hey!" Xian gave a pair of iron fists annoyingly on his chest, and then he roared, raised an iron fist, and slammed into the ground in front of him. Everyone thought that this punch would definitely add another big hole in the square of white marble. But who knows, this punch did not even make a sound, nor did it break the ground of white marble. The strangest thing was that one of Xian's fists had penetrated into the white marble jade, and the scene seemed to be that he had put his hand into the water. But white marble jade is a hard solid, how can Xian's hands remain silent, and he drills his hands down. Ye Kong was surprised by this strange sight. But in an instant, he understood, no. Ye Kong just wanted to stand up and leap, but someone was faster than him. I saw the hand disappearing under the ground of white marble, and suddenly got out of Ye Kong's feet without sound. Then a giant hand grabbed Ye Kong's one foot, and threw out the frightened Ye Kong. Boom! Ye Kong was smashed on the more distant ground, even though he was covered with 2 layers of defenses, such as a spiritual shield and golden light amulet. He was also smashed to 7 levels and 8 elements, and the protection of the middle-ranked amulet golden light amulet formed by the inferior product was outside. The floor was smashed and collapsed. Fortunately, the innermost spiritual shield has not been broken, otherwise the ink armor worn by him will be revealed to the world. Ye Kong was in a loss, and the audience was shocked. If you knew it was them, maybe they had suffered serious internal injuries. Zhang Wei was heartbroken for a while, holding onto Huang Zixuan's hand and was speechless. Ye Cao Junfan sighed again. "I didn't expect that the stone urn would even have soil magic. Brother Li could not hide if he wanted to hide. Brother Li seems to be using a turtle shell again, but I don't know, that turtle can the shell's defense resist the huge iron fist of the stone golem?" The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 369. 3, 6, and 8 advanced to match 9. Cao Junfan guessed right, and Yekong turned up and climbed up, and immediately threw out the space for the turtle shell of the best defense weapon. Big, with a command, the shell of the turtle immediately grew into the size of a room. In the end, it is the shell of a 10,000-year-old tortoise. Looking around, it even gave off a heavy luster like metal. Two-pillar incense Yekong smiled at Lin Tianwu, and sent a confident smile to his friends, and then flashed into the turtle shell. Is there a superb tortoise shell instrument that can beat the world? Huh, Xian, go up, Lin Tianwu yelled, pointing at the turtle shell instrument. Well, the huge stone wren immediately ran forward with his big foot, and every step was like an earthquake. Boom, then rushing, Xian's big fist banged on the side of the turtle shell. This punch was amazing in strength, and a tortoise shell the size of a room was beaten out. Haha, Lin Tianwu said with a laugh, Xian, kick me that old turtle shell out of the ring. As soon as Lin Tianwu said this, he immediately caused dissatisfaction among many disciples. Those outside the disciples, or those who practiced Qi, were all standing by Li Hizi at this moment. It's not fair. The 200 feet of stone man that released such a big stone man are not enough, the disciples shouted. The referee Cao Muking had a bad decision, although she very much hoped that Li Hizi would lose. But it now seems that the area of the original platform was really too small. However, Cao Guang's voice sounded first, the area of the ring platform has expanded, and all the former squares of the inner blade hall are used as the test venue. The larger playing area is beneficial to Yekong, at least he will not be kicked out of the ring quickly, and there is an inner edge hall on one side of the square and an audience on the other side. Lin Tianwu would not dare to let go, otherwise when blade hall smashed, he was guilty of guilt. Lin Tianwu didn't panic. He looked at the cliff on the west side of the square and ordered, throw me and his turtle shell under the cliff. Xian was very obedient, immediately holding the turtle's shell with his arms, striding towards the cliff. The tortoise shell throws off the cliff, and the leaf is not necessarily dead by shock. After all, it is an independent space inside, at most it is the damage of the tortoise shell that causes the spiritual backlash. But the key mountain is not the playing field. If someone throws it down, Ye loses. Of course, Yekong would not admit that he failed. He hurried to the front of the array, and looked out. He just saw a pair of huge yellow eyes. As soon as Yekong had an idea, he suddenly had an idea. Go, with an order from Yekong, a mixed element mirror pierced the turtle's shell and hit the yellow-colored giant eye of Shiji exactly. Although it was protected by golden light symbols, Shiji's eyes were still a weak part. The big eye was smashed at once, and at the same time the other mixed element mirror flew out, smashing another giant eye of Xian. Xian's eyes are different from other parts of his body. The other parts are rocks with soil properties. One pair of eyes is two precise matrix methods, which can pass the lens seen by Xian to its owner. More importantly, Xian's eyes were closely connected with the crystal of that soil, his eyes were destroyed, and the crystal of that soil was immediately angry. The former crystallization of the earth was also spiritually wise, and it was only under the repression of Lin Tianwu's secret law that he obeyed him. But the crystal of the soil was angry at this moment, and its sleeping thoughts also awakened partly. At this moment, Shi Yun immediately broke away from Lin Tianwu's control and became a cruel stone man. The connection with Shi Yan's mind was broken, Lin Tianwu's heart was not good. The slave bullied the master. He was originally worried that he could not control the stone maggot. Now, with the destruction of his eyes, he finally broke out. The power of the stone puppet is extraordinary. If it breaks out of control and inspires madness, its strength is even more amazing. Lin Tianwu panicked, looked at Cao Guang, who was standing inside Niatang, bit his teeth, pretending not to know. If he tells the truth now, Cao Guang will inevitably destroy it, and he will lose more than he gains.
Therefore, Lin Tianwu pretended not to know anything, and still uttered his tactics, as if Shi Yan still controlled him. Furious Shi Yan, everyone thought that Lin Tianwu increased power. However, Ye Kong felt that something was wrong. Shi Ji smashed the turtle's shell to the disciples who watched the war several times. Even if Shi Ji was blind, Lin Tianwu was not blind. He was not afraid of punishing some disciples. Fortunately, the turtle shell has a little flying effect, and every time I make a circle on the disciples and fly back. After the madness of the stone maggot, the power has even been greatly improved, and even the tortoise shell instrument feels a bit overwhelmed. Ye Kong Gang controlled the turtle shell magic instrument to fly back from the disciples' heads, and was caught by Shi Yan's big hand. Then Shi Yan raised a large iron fist and banged on the back of the turtle shell. Boom! 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 Shi Yan didn't even know that he was tired. He slammed on the back of the turtle's shell with iron fists like crazy. Stuck in the soil. Ye Kong felt a bit overwhelmed, and if he continued to beat like this, he felt that the tortoise shell weapon would be damaged. Shi Yan, Shiu must be crazy. Ye Kong jumped out of Shi Yan, and fought with Shi Yan again. However, this time Ye Kong was clearly in a disadvantage, and the stone urns out of Lin Tianwu's control not only doubled his attack power, but even increased his defense power a lot. Ye Kong also noticed that the ochre-colored stone wren was originally a giant with a blackish-green color all over his body. Dang, Fu Bao hit Shi Yan's shoulder, and there was no shot of stone debris splashing before, but only a white mark on the cyan rock on his shoulder. Fu Bao could only make a mark on his body, even Ye Kong was surprised. It seemed that this stone urn had been promoted to more than one level in extreme anger. This kind of stone urn is not something Ye Kong can deal with. Ye Kong can only run away with his legs sprawled, and stone enthusiast chases behind him like crazy. Damn, I didn't expect the stone giant to become so powerful at once. Ye Kong hadn't expected that Shi Yan had already got out of Lin Tianwu's control and began to gradually recover the powerful power of the crystal of earth. Everyone has also felt that Shi Yan has become more powerful. Zhang Weii and others can't help but shout out loud, "Brother Heze, forget it, let's lose, we don't lack that cave house." Lin Tianwu's old face was tense, and his heart said, even if you admit defeat, it is useless, and the anger that does not kill you will not disappear. It's only getting stronger and stronger until it kills you. That's the power of a mountain. However, admitting defeat was not Ye's style, and he thought of a solution while running around the field. Later, I saw Ye Kong throwing the turtle shell again, but this time the turtle shell became extremely huge. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 370. Finished within 3, 6, 9. After Ye Kong rushed into the turtle shell, he didn't let the turtle shell enter the defensive state, but opened the middle door to let Shi Yan enter. If Lin Tianwu controlled Shi Yan, naturally have to consider whether there is a conspiracy. But with the self-conscious mind, Shi Yan's simple brain thought so much, it just wanted to rush over and kill this little human in order to revenge for the blind. After Shi Yan also entered the turtle shell, all the audience's hearts hung up. Why didn't Li Heze hurry up to block Shi Yan? If you put it in the weapon, can you still live? Everyone thinks that Li Heze and Shi Yan are dangerous in staying in a small space, but they are afraid of more than serious injuries. Maybe Brother He's life will be accounted for. But in fact, a black man was standing in the space of the turtle shell, smiling brightly at the Shishi who followed him. Welcome into Master's boudoir, I hope you will have a good time. A black man patted a storage bag and took out a golden chan. The disciples outside were even more turbulent, especially Zhang Weii, Huang Zixuan, and Ye Kong's friends. They have all taken out their instruments and clamored to go in to rescue Brother Li. Even Lu Qianqian, who was watching in the inner blade hall, was a little worried. Someone has to ask, isn't Qiu Jianguang Lu Qianqin's personal disciple? Will she care about Ye Kong? In fact, many ancestors of Ji Danyuan have a lot of disciples. Some ancestors protect the calves, some ancestors do not protect them, and the disciples also have joy and dislike in the eyes of the master. Qiu Jianguang was originally smashed into Lu Qianqian because of an adventure. Lu Qianqian didn't want to accept it. In addition, this boy was annoyed by the fact that he helped to gang up with his disciples. On the contrary, she was very interested in talking, mysterious identity, and black head and black brain. Fu Jun, this kid is not in danger, Lao Chao has been attacked, Lu Qianqian said. Cao Guang frowned, saying nothing, and he didn't want to let this guy go wrong. Whether this guy is Ye Kong or not, but he is wit, mysterious, strong, and appealing. This kind of candidate is exactly what Cao Guang needs. In his next arrangement, he has already included this kid. If this boy has 3 longs and 2 shorts, how can he find such a suitable person? Although it was stipulated that no one should be disturbed during the game, Cao Guang couldn't help throwing out a note. Looking at the golden streamer flying from the inner blade hall, Lin Tianwu could not help but secretly cry for himself, knowing that Cao Guang had begged for this child, but he couldn't help it. It seems that this test, he has become an outsider. After receiving the note, it was Cao Guang's sentence, quickly quit Xian, I have a great use. Lin Tianwu shook his head helplessly, and only had the truth to tell the truth. If Cao Guang shot in time, maybe he could save the life of the blackbird. But just when Lin Tianwu was about to tell the truth, the turtle shell moved. I saw a tortoise shell as big as a big house crunched. All the audience widened their eyes and looked nervously at the turtle shell. At this moment the scene was silent, as if waiting for the end of a movie. They watched the door of the turtle's shell, uneasy in their hearts, guessing that it was Li Hizi or Xian who came out. However, neither Li Hizi nor Xian came out. Boom, in a loud noise. A stout stone arm was thrown out. The crowd was still in a daze, and they heard another, a huge stone thigh bouncing on the ground twice. Many disciples stared at each of the limbs made of megaliths, and there was no cheering or applause. They were all surprised. Originally, they saw that Li Hizi was chased all over the field, and they were still worried about brother Hizi's safety. Who knew that it didn't take long to get into the turtle shell, and this happened. It's incredible. What happened inside the turtle shell? This is what Cao Guang and Lu Qianqian are thinking about. And more disciples are a bit unable to believe their eyes. Until Xian's big head was thrown out. Brother Li wins, someone finally exclaimed, then cheers and applause rang out. Zhang Huai and Huang Zixuan scolded in tears, this black egg always gets people worried about death before they shoot. Wait for him to come out and beat him all over. Cao Junfan even snorted, this boy is intentional, it must be intentional. He likes to provoke this appetite. I will not even recognize his mother. Lin Tianwu, who originally thought he was in trouble, was relieved. He just wanted to teach this younger generation. If he really killed him, it is estimated that Cao Guang would not easily forgive himself. However, Li Hizi was safe, but he was annoyed by another matter. He raised his hand and took out a note to quickly send it to Cao Guang. Cao Guang's ancestor received the note, smiled bitterly, and passed it to Lu Qianqian. After Lu Qianqian read it, she hummed softly and said, this Lin Tianwu has lived so many years old, it's really a waste of life. What do you care about with a junior? Now that Shi Fufu is broken, I'm so embarrassed to ask people to return to the soil. Cao Guang smiled bitterly, which monk is so good at talking? Send the things back to you even if I do and have such a good culture, but after all, Lin Lao was a close friend of my father's year, so I can't say it's better to help him, and the crystals of the soil are still best for him, After all, he has studied for 10 years. It wasn't the excited disciples who waited for Yekong to step out of the turtle shell space to meet him. Because the game is not over yet, after all, Shi Yunfu is gone, Lin Tianwu may still take out other instruments and fight again. Uncle Lin, are you ready to fight again? Yekong stepped out, tossed the last stone tortoise to the ground in front of him, and looked at the old Lin oppositely. Lin Tianwu was not concerned about anything else. He quickly raised his old eyes and saw that the chest part of the tortoise's trunk had been dug a huge hole. Obviously, the crystal of soil was taken by Li Hizi. Lin Tianwu's old face was a bitter, and he never thought of it as the ending. The crystal of the earth was obtained by chance, otherwise he couldn't get this thing with his cultivation. Different from the lower spell. Zongpan charms can be used many times, just like Fu Bao. Although the stone cricket was destroyed, as long as the crystal of the earth is still there, Lin Tianwu can continue to make the stone cricket, but if the crystal of the earth is taken away, he will lose a lot. Don't fight anymore, the old man confessed to losing. Lin Tianwu quickly ran over with a kind smile, took Yekong's hand, and shouted in the direction of the audience, Li Hizi. Nuobo, at first place I hereby sincerely apologize to him and ask him to forgive him for his disrespect. Yekong is not stupid, of course, understand the meaning of the old man. However, Yamao never took back what he took. Thank you, Uncle Lin. Yekong sent a blank eye, ignored Lin Tianwu at all, and went straight to the crowd who welcomed him. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 371. San-killing disciples. Nai Li, it was true that the old man was biased. He had prejudices about you, and asked his nephew to forgive him. Nuoboit is over, but Yekong has a tail behind him. The crystal of this earth is too important to Lin Tianwu, so the old man had to babble with his grandson behind Yekong every day, wanting to return to the crystal of earth. Ah, Uncle Lin, why are you doing this? The nephew is not at all concerned, so don't worry about it. Yes, smile on his face did not know how brilliant. Naishi, you must make me a raw material. Otherwise, there will be a puppet in the old heart, so that Ziawei can no longer be promoted, Lin Tianwu said with a smile. Can you practice it to promote me? Yekong snorted and sighed helplessly. Well, Uncle Lin, I forgive you, you can go. Where did Lin Tianwu apologize? He smiled and said, and, the crystal of earth. Yekong angered, how many times have I said that I didn't see the thing? Maybe it was broken by me. I'm sorry, if I saw it, I would put it in my hands. Uncle, believe it. What am I saying? Zhang Wei, who was on the side, couldn't help giggling. Can Brother Zizi eat the food back? Really dreaming. At the beginning, he said the same for Chiu Qiangguang's Howling Wolf King. Where does Lin Tianwu believe? But the old man changed his temper, knowing that the boy was soft and hard, so he stayed beside Yekong without talking, and had no intention of leaving. Yahalo Road, you do nt go, well, then let you look a little stimulating, see if you see a nt go this fake way. Wu Yi, we haven't been close for a long time. Yekong pulled the little pepper over, and the palm of his hand stroked Zhang Wei's upright fart chair. Lin Tianwu's old face looked red, and he scolded the boy for shamelessly, but he couldn't help but stand by himself. Not leaving yet? It's more exciting. Yes, big hand slid along the lower belly of the small pepper to the upper peak. Although he knew that Brother Hizi had deliberately wanted to leave Lin Tianwu, Zhang Wei had never been touched by a man's chest, and his face was flushed, and he couldn't bear to push Yekong's bad hand. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Tianwu coughed hard, but even if he had asthma, Ye could not stop. Seeing that the palm had advanced to the foot of the mountain, the old man finally couldn't stand. Li Shi nephew, since you have something to do, come back and visit again. When the old man left, Zhang Wei was relieved and said, it's really scared to death. If he doesn't leave,
I thought you would really touch it. Ye Kong laughed, even if he left, I would touch it. The big hand instantly covered the peak and grasped the softness of the mass. Ah, don't Zhang Wei Tang Kao spit out incense, pretty blushing to drip blood. Brother Heza is really abominable, he really doesn't let go. After getting along with each other these days, Ye Kong had decided to ask for this little pepper. Where would he let go and rub it vigorously? The poor Zhang Wei panted and appealed, and the soft ones couldn't stand. In the small medicine garden, lonely male and female, Ye Kong prepared to lay down the small pepper on the stone table in the middle of the medicine pavilion to study the physiological structure. But just then, people came from outside. I've met Master Ziu. It was Cao Guang's ancestor who came. Ye Kong couldn't lose the courtesy, and hurriedly saluted with Zhang Wei. Well, Cao Guang looked at Zhang Wei's pretty face, nodded and smiled, sat on the stone bench in the middle of the medicine booth, looked left and right, and asked, "Why do you still live in Mooking's medicine garden?" Ye Kong replied, "Master Grandpa, Napi has just ended, and the rewards have not yet begun, and Dongfu has not yet given it to the disciples, so I have to stay here for the time being, but also Muking Shizu has not found a medicine garden people." "You're a good person," Cao Guang praised and smiled. "In fact, today I'm giving you the first prize." After Cao Guang finished speaking, he slid out a jade card from his hand. Ye Kong took a look and found that the jade card was emblazoned with the cloud mark of Yun Fuzong, with the words Inner Blade Hall on the front and Li on the reverse. The name of Kuriko. "Master, this is." According to the rules, Nuoboit got the top 10 and has the right to be accepted as a disciple in the inner hall. You can also participate in the teachings in the inner hall. See the classics in the inner hall. Oh, your offering will also increase to 30 yuan per month, Ling Shi. In fact, Ye Kong had known about Cao Guang's words. Ye Kong also heard about the treatment of those disciples in the inner court. But the next words surprised Ye Kong a little. Cao Guang said, "Also, don't call me grandpa in the future, you just call, master." When this remark came out, not only Ye Kong was surprised, Zhang Wei was even surprised. At first, she thought that Brother Zizi was worshipping the oldest ancestor at most, so that he could worship the ancestor of Yuanying, and the oldest ancestor to Lu Qianqian. Except him. You know, Cao Guang's ancestor has not even had a personal disciple so far. Even if his grandson is not his disciple, if Li Heza worships Cao Guang's ancestor, it is the most honorable of all disciples in the inner and outer halls, and according to seniority, Zhang Wei should call him uncle. "Hurry up and see Master." Cao Guang laughed, looking at the pair of dazed people in front of him. "Meet you, Master." Ye Kong hurriedly saluted. At that moment, a scene appeared in his eyes. It was rejected by the real man Wang Xuan, and rejected by Ling Yaoshan. A qualification of a complex spiritual root, still want to worship the Xianxian school. Brother Ling Yaoshan's face appeared again. Cao Guang smiled slightly at Ye Kong, raised his hand and touched the cloud on Ye Kong's chest, and a golden cloud immediately turned into 5 golden clouds. Ye Kong looked at the clouds in his chest, and sighed in his heart, "I don't know those who have rejected himself, what would he think when he saw himself at this moment? Okay. In the future, practice well, strive to improve, and promote my Yun Fuzong Weiming name." Cao Guang said a few words, and said, "Oh, your Dongfu has been arranged, you don't need to build it yourself. It was before. The Dongfu I lived in is not far from my current Dongfu. You can go in with this jade card. Also, Dongfu has my gas refining and base building period, including some of Jade Dan's experiences and Jade invitations. Can watch." Cao Guang not only accepted him as a personal disciple, but also gave him the Dongfu where he once lived, and more importantly, those who had learned Jade Cambodia. Although Ye Kong already has all the exercises of the 5 elements of ascension, but those are too general, and sometimes a noun is enough for you to ponder for a long time. With the detailed experience of predecessors, it is undoubtedly much easier to practice. All this left Yekong flattered, and he was a little puzzled. Wouldn't the old man think of himself like that? Is there any place to use yourself? But then again, it doesn't matter if it is used, as long as it doesn't hurt his heart, Yekong can still receive it safely. Then Cao Guang talked about Lin Tianwu's affairs, and he still asked Lin Tianwu to intercede and wanted him to return the crystal of the earth.